when you talk about C.M. Newton. I had a chance to meet him several times. He was always great. Would come on our program, and we'd talk general basketball with him. C.M. Newton passed away, and we wanted to reach out to someone who could help us understand more about C.M. Newton from not only a player perspective, someone who played under Coach C.M. Newton, but also from a coaching perspective, because he has been a coach, and I think he can understand the difficulties and the challenges of that. And we reached out to Leon Douglas. Leon Douglas, welcome back to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, sir. I hope you're doing well.
Everything is great, and it's great to be on with you guys this afternoon.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us and spending some time talking Alabama Crimson Tide basketball. For those who did not know C.M. Newton the way that you did, kind of help us connect the dots with C.M. Newton.
Well, first and foremost, he created a legacy for himself, but from a player perspective as well as a guy that's been coaching, he was a gentleman. He was a guy that cared about his players, and he was someone that you wanted to play for. And when you're a coach, those are really the main things that you look for from a young man, because, first of all, you want a young person to buy into you, to buy into what you stand for, what you mean as a person, as a human being. And once that buy-in occurs, then that young man really wants to do whatever is necessary, not only to make himself successful, but to make the coach successful. And with myself, Reggie, T.R., and other guys that I played with, there was an immediate buy-in when we met Coach Newton. And mainly because of the person he was. And, I can reflect back on some things that, for example, when you recruit a young man, the first thing most young men say is, if I play for you, will I start, or will I have a role or impact into your program or what you're trying to build? And most coaches cannot answer that correctly, because a lot of that depends on the young person, depends on what they're willing to do as far as sacrifice and make themselves better as well as make the team better. Myself and the guys that I played with, we came in with accolades galore. And once we got there, we destroyed that scrapbook, because every time a kid go to college to play any sport, you've got to have a scrapbook to demonstrate what your background was in order to be where you're at. And so what we did was we checked our scrapbook in at the door when we got there. And mainly that was because of Coach Newton, because his thing was that if you come, you work hard, you contribute, and you do what is asked of you in the classroom as well as on the court, you will determine your playing time. And see, most players today don't want to hear that. They want something, already given. And the guys I played with, we understood that, because in the process of sacrificing, a lot of times you had to sacrifice your scoring. If you was a great scorer, you had to come in, maybe become a great defender. Or if you was a great defender, maybe you had to come in to turn into a great scorer. And through those sacrifices, and mainly that's due to the person that's coaching you. Young men like myself and those guys I played with, we made those type of sacrifices. And to go a little further, I can recall back in the 70s, I think it was 72 or 73, there was two teams in the country that started 5 black players. And Coach Newton was the type of coach that he didn't have a problem doing that, because the guys that was playing and starting, they earned those positions. And I can recall we played Florida State. Florida State had 5 black guys. We had 5 black guys, which was unheard of in the 70s. And matter of fact, we beat those guys. But see, that's just an example of the type of man he was, because not only did he honor his word, but he was not afraid to do things against the grain. And by starting all 5 of us, that was totally against the grain. But all 5 guys were from the state of Alabama. And see, that's the problem with Alabama basketball now, was that Coach Newton didn't have a problem recruiting within these borders. Now, if you look at Alabama basketball, guys come from all parts of the world. And see, we had an immediate buy-in because we wanted to represent our state as well as the communities that we came from. Maybe I was here too long on the answer, but
no. Listen, no, it's awesome, and I love to just sit back and listen to those legendary players like yourself from the University of Alabama. Did you have a hesitation of going any other place besides the University of Alabama?
The mystique about it was, I played the game. You play the recruiting game because, you want to get visits in. But I visited the university when I was in the ninth grade. I came down for a visit, and really was unofficial. I was just down on campus. And it was something about the mystique of the red and white that sort of got me. And that particular day, I made up in my mind that, I was going to play at Alabama. Now, Alabama was not recruiting me at the time because it was interesting that they started recruiting me. They came to North Alabama to look at a guy by the name of Johnny Deal. And we played Johnny's team that night. And when they left there, they were talking about Leon Douglas instead of Johnny, although Johnny did play for the University of Alabama. And during that recruiting process, I would not visit any school that I thought I would like because I didn't want to have conflicting views about where I wanted to go to school. I did not visit UCLA, which recruited me. I did not go to Hawaii. I would not visit Las Vegas. Or I would not go to California at all because I didn't want to see something that would, sort of sway me. So, I was basically committed when I was in the ninth grade, but they didn't know it until I decided to go there my senior year.
Well, you look at the University of Alabama and the tradition of Alabama basketball. Many would say that Leon Douglas was one of those prominent recruits, that key national recruit to help Alabama, reach that national prominence. I think you could almost compare it to Colin Sexton giving Avery Johnson that big stamp of approval, getting that big-time national recruit. Well,
I was the man when I came out, but what was interesting was everyone in my hometown and the surrounding area did not want me to go to Alabama because Alabama was not a basketball school. It was a football school. And also, George Wallace had just stood in the door a couple of years prior to my arrival. So everybody was on the bandwagon for UCLA and for all those other schools telling me that's why I should go because of their basketball history. But what sold me on Alabama was the fact that they was trying to build something. And Coach Newton sold me on the fact that if I came there, I would be the straw that would transcend the program because I was a big man. And back then, if you had a good big man, you had a good program. Unlike now, you can get a guard or you can get in a position player that's a good player and change the program. Back in the 70s, it was all about who had the best big man, was really one of the catalysts for having a great program. And he sold me on the fact that if I came to Alabama, that I could help transcend a program and have basketball become permanent within the state. And that was a challenge that I took. But the interesting thing about that challenge was, like Sexton, I had the opportunity to leave after my first year. Okay, but I had a mother that was, one of those people that was really interested in education, so I was not allowed to leave. My mom told me that I had to stay and graduate. And I think I was one of the first guys, I probably was the first basketball player that graduated in 3.5 years because I graduated early because I wanted to make sure that, I had that piece of paper so I could go to the next level. So, I graduated in December of my senior year. I had completed all my credit. So, but just to go back, it was a great thing. And, and I look at what the young people are doing now as far as leaving school early, but back then it was all about trying to build something, and I knew that ultimately I was going to live within the state of Alabama, and I wanted to leave a legacy that would transcend time, so that when I was older, which I'm older now, that I could always look back and see that I helped build something and that I helped start something.
So when you look at Leon Douglas and C.M. Newton, so there was really not a lot of selling. You had already made your mind up that you were going to the University of Alabama.
Yeah, but they didn't know it.
Okay. So you kind of got to listen to all the recruiting pitches. I mean, what were those like?
Well, there was a lot of money involved. You know, a lot of people back in the day was trying to buy players. And my mother was one of those type of people that we would not be bought. You know, she wanted to do things the honest way. And you had a lot of stuff going on back then, a lot of craziness, which, you know, from looking at it now, it's still going on. But, I was focused on playing in my home state. And I had one situation that occurred, guys, was that George Wallace, he was governor then, he sent me a telegram, which was like, back in the day, was like a telegram. And that telegram stated that he wanted me to attend the University of Alabama, Auburn, because Alabama could not afford to lose their great resources. And when I got that telegram, I almost decided to leave the state because of the fact that I got that. My mom and I, we sit and we discussed that, and then at the end we decided no, we was not going to allow that to, help change my mind. But, in later years, I did have opportunity to sit down with Governor Wallace, and he explained to me that everything that he was doing was politically based because he wanted to be governor. So if he had to go right, he was going right. If he had to go left, he was going left because, his main focus as a politician was to get votes. And so, after that conversation, I had a better understanding of him. And also I was glad after that conversation that I did not change my mind and go elsewhere. I decided to come on to the University of Alabama.
I'm just curious if you could help us understand the support that you were able to get from Coach Bryant.
Well, that was interesting, too. Coach Bryant told Coach Newton that he was not going to allow him to botch the recruiting. Okay. Coach Bryant spoke at my athletic banquet my senior year. And that was one of the first times I think he had done that. He spoke at my athletic banquet, mainly because there was 3 guys at that banquet that he wanted to play for the University of Alabama. First and foremost, as a basketball player, he wanted me to come. And during my 4 years there, we developed a great relationship because, I had just as many meetings with Coach Bryant that I had with Coach Newton. And he wanted to recruit Alden Newsom and Thad Flanagan. And so the 3 of us was at that banquet because Alden and Thad, they was on the B team. They played basketball. So, he did speak at my banquet, and he had a big thing to do with Alabama basketball because he allowed Coach Newton to go out and recruit black athletes because, that was not a big thing back in the day, and he allowed him to do that. And that's why, I say Coach Newton was not only a great person and a great coach, but he was a great humanitarian because of the fact that, he was colorblind. It was all about young men that had character. Now, you had to have character before he recruited you. He did not recruit knuckleheads. So he surrounded himself with good people that was good players.
Let me ask you, if I could walk you back to the early 70s, your chance to play in New York City there at the NIT, it was my understanding that Coach Bryant sat on the same bench as the Alabama basketball team.
Yeah, Coach Bryant was on the bench as well as Sonny Werblin, the guy that owned the Jets at that time. He was sitting on our bench. And both of those prominent guys were sitting at the end of the bench. As a matter of fact, Coach Bryant was calling a free throw a field goal. You guys keep missing those field goals. You got to make those things. So, I think that helped us too because, when an official who's officiating the game looks at the bench and sees Coach Bryant sitting on the bench, and not only Coach Bryant, but the owner of the New York Jets, that's going to help, I guess, turn a few things in our favor. But he did fully support basketball. He was a great athletic director because he supported all sports.
We are talking now with Leon Douglas. Leon, before we go back to C.M. Newton, from a coaching perspective, we're so excited about Avery Johnson. I've told him before here on this program, I said he has that personality that's energy is contagious. If you're around him, it's kind of hard to have a bad moment. Help me understand, where do you think Avery Johnson is going to take this program?
Well, I'm like you guys. I'm sort of sitting and watching because, when he came in, he said, buckle up. So I buckled up, but I'm watching it. And as a coach, I don't critique other coaches on how they're doing or what they're doing or what they're going to succeed. He has the pedigree. He's been an NBA Coach of the Year. He won an NBA championship as a player. And so the pedigree is there, but I think at the end of the day, that's got to translate and transfer to the young men that are playing for him. Because you can be a great coach, but the young players, they got to buy into you and what you're trying to teach them. And, I'm an Alabama fan. I bleed red. So I'm pulling for him. I'm pulling for him as well as pulling for the University of Alabama basketball program. But I think he will do well. I think once he gets the guys in that he wants, and, it's hard to build a program when you got guys coming through a swinging door. You'll have a good season this year, and next year it could be something totally different. Unless it's Kentucky where you got 5 or 6 of them coming in. Just to get one, I don't think that's enough, But from an old school perspective, I think if he recruited the state of Alabama and gave a lot of Alabama kids a chance, and we put up a fence around the borders of this state and kept Alabama players within the state, I think that would quickly change the program because the young men would be similar to how myself and the other guys were. They would come in with the idea that they're playing for their state school, they're playing for their community, as well as playing for their families and friends, because those are the people that they'll be playing in front of.
Leon, if you could just take the final couple of minutes here as we pay tribute to C.M. Newton, and I know we talked about him at the opening part of the conversation, but if folks did not listen to the first part, just kind of help us summarize what C.M. Newton meant to you.
Well, in order for me to come to the University of Alabama, and in order for me to play for a coach, and back then you had a lot of great coaches. You had the John Wooten, you had the Denny Crumbs, you had the Bobby Knights, you had the Marv Hoshman, the Dave Gabbett, the George Raveling. You had great coaches. And in order for me to select him to be my coach, that meant a lot. That meant that I trusted him and that I believed in him and that I was willing to not only listen and learn from him, but I was willing to follow him. And see, I've always been one of those young men that, and I'm still similar to that now, whereas I didn't talk a lot. I listened. And I was one of those that, I listened to him. I listened to his approach. I listened to the things he said. And I trusted him. And see, that's the main thing. It's hard for a young man to trust someone that they meet and someone that you're going to put your career and your life in their hands and allow them to mold you and build you. But see, I trusted him enough for him to do that. And in the midst of trusting him, he did not let me down because, guys, when I was a freshman at the end of the year, the ABA came to me and they brought me a contract for like $2.5 million. And we was, the team was staying down at the old Stafford Inn downtown Tuscaloosa. And a guy by the name of Son of a Carol, you probably heard of Son of a Carol, and a guy named Louis Shaffer, when they came to visit me, and we were staying there before a game, and they came in and they showed me a contract. And in the midst of showing me that contract, their conversation was, why would I want to stay in school when I could leave school and make this kind of money? Okay. And I decided to stay because I felt that I was in good hands. And if I listened and if I learned and did what I was supposed to do, that money would be there after I graduated. And, when I graduated, the story goes, I was the fourth player taken in the draft. So the risk I took with Coach Newton and the trust that I put in him, it manifested itself. Everything that he told me or he tried to instill in me, it all came true. And see, one of the things about it now is, I still live with those values and those principles that Coach Newton, Coach Bryant, Wimp Sanderson, but those three guys taught me while I was at Alabama. And I coach with the same mindset that I'm honest with young guys. I don't tell someone something that I know I can't do, and I don't go out of line, and I don't cheat in order to do things. I sort of modeled myself after that coaching staff. And he was a great man, and not only would I say that, but all the guys that played for him, I'm sure they would say the same thing, And as a coach, some guys like you, and some guys don't like you because depending on what they get out of the situation, because most young people feel like that someone that's in control of them always owe them something. But I took a chance on Coach Newton. Okay, and I took that chance after my freshman year, instead of going to the NBA, going to the ABA, or trying to enter the NBA. I stayed in school, and it turned out I got my degree in 3.5 years. I've been involved in basketball all my life, and a lot of that goes to the man that that molded me, that shaped me, and that allowed me not only to grow and to prosper under him, but to learn through how he demonstrated himself on a daily basis. One thing that young people fail to do now is that, and I tell all my young players that when I coach you, there's something within my character that is defining. And if you're smart, you'll take that and incorporate that into yourself and use that to build around it, help you develop your character. And see, when I was with those guys, and when I was with Coach Newton as a young person, I took things from them, and I still live by those things. I still live by the fact that, do unto others as you want others to do unto you. I still look at young people from the standpoint that it's a young person that you got to invest time in that young person, and you got to mold him and build him. But the main thing is you got to get him to understand that the key thing about being a human being and being a great person is that you got to be able to trust people. But in order to trust people, people got to trust you as well. And so I learned a lot by dealing with Coach Newton. I still coach with some of the same principles. And, I've been coaching now for 14 years, and I've won 6 championships in 14 years. So I attribute a lot of that to the fact that the man that taught me, not only did he teach me to be a good person and teach me to be a fine human being, he taught me to be a winner as well on the court as well as off the court.
Well, Leon, thank you again for helping us pay tribute to C.M. Newton. What an outstanding job. You've helped us understand Coach C.M. Newton. Thank you again for being a part of our show, and I hope our paths will cross down the road. Thank you again, sir.
But I'd like to thank you guys for trying to create a forum for Coach Newton's legacy, because a lot of times people pass over and we just sort of say, well, he was a good man, and just sort of let it go. But I thank you for allowing me to share some of the things that he did instill in me, and that he not only taught me, but he taught the TR, the Reggie, the Charles Cleveland, the Wendell Hudson, the Johnny Deal. He taught all of us a valuable lesson, and that is to always try to be the best person possible. And I think we all live with that principle. But again, thank you for calling me. Thank you for allowing me to share for the past few minutes. And I hope to meet you in the future.
Hey, thank you. It's been an absolute honor to be able to talk with you. Thank you, sir. I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.